On this episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast, we talk about Petrodragonic Apocalypse, or Dawn of Eternal Night, an Annihilation of Planet Earth, and the Beginning of Merciless Damnation by King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Say that again.
Fuck you. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Bronze Metalist podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ.
We're two professional broadcasters. We like metal and we like to talk about it. And today we're talking about an album that henceforth will be shortened to Petrodragonic Apocalypse by a band called King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard, who we shall now call King Giz. They are an Australian psychedelic / progressive rock band from Melbourne, Australia, who have been around since 2010, and in that 13 years of existence have released 24 studio albums, of which this is the 24th. They've released 15 live albums, 5 compilations, only 3 EPs, and a remix album.
Wow. Yeah, it's not often you have to put heretofores in a podcast.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I've listened to some weird kind of sort of pretentious kind of up its own ass music at times that can get, really sort of overly long titles. I don't consider this to be pretentious because I think it was very obviously the point of look how stupidly and ridiculous the name of this album
they
is.
know.
I think King Giz is pretty self-aware as far as that they make weird, bizarre music that's mostly just fun. But the thing is apparently the way their brains all work is they're like, we might be making music that is kind of a novelty, but we're going to take that seriously.
Right.
None of their music is a joke, but it is all fun.
Right.
And thinking about it all in context is funny.
It's novel, but it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's novel, but it's not a joke.
Right.
And yeah, King Giz and they, to their credit, I mentioned they are a progressive rock band primarily,
right,
or psychedelic rock band, and they take those elements very seriously. They're extremely competent songwriters that can also spit material out ludicrously fast. The sheer amount of output that these guys have had over 13 years is truly crazy, and we'll talk more about King Giz.
Well, before we do, say the quote.
When
you said the album is about.
Sure. So the lead vocalist, lead guitarist, and sort of main songwriter for King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard is a guy named Stu McKenzie. And when asked about the album's concept, he said it is, quote, about humankind, and it's about planet Earth, but it's also about witches and dragons and shit. Which I feel like that really tells you
it does
everything you need to know about the album and the band and perhaps life itself.
Right.
But we'll talk more about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard later on. But speaking of wizards and dragons and shit, I've been playing an awful lot of Baldur's Gate 3.
Have you? I wouldn't have guessed.
Over the last week. And I'm enjoying it thoroughly.
Nice.
I'm having a great time with it. It is, knowing what I know about how the game was developed, it feels almost like a miracle that it happened at all. And the way that I understand their development process to have worked, and the amount of the iterative development that they would do on things, where the play testers' jobs on a lot of video games is walk over to this part of the map and see if a glitch happens or some shit like that.
Sure.
A big part of the play testing for Baldur's Gate 3 was, we want to know what you want to do in the game. Like narrative, what's a narrative road you want to go down as a player in this campaign that doesn't exist at this point in time? Like, what's a choice that you would like to have the opportunity to make? And we'll figure out if we can make that work. Like, it's like certain plot MacGuffins that they would need to have. Like, there is an object that one of the origin characters, which is like the preset companions, she has on her inventory at the very start of the game. How does the game handle it? Because this object she has is very important. How does the game handle it if you decide not to recruit her? If you tell her, yeah, I don't want you to go to my camp, I don't want to hang out with you, which you can do. How does the game handle that? Well, she's been like spying on you and following you around. And when the first time that object is needed, she shows up with it. And like figuring out ways to, it's much the same way that like in a Dungeons and Dragons campaign, a dungeon master would be like, okay, there was this, what I thought was an obviously very important thing that the players decided to completely ignore. How do I get that very important thing to them and try and once again give them an opportunity to latch on to it? Like, how do I get another try at setting this narrative hook? And so like that was kind of their development path for like things and choices that players could make.
Yeah, you ever run a campaign where you throw in an object like that and then they don't take the bait, and then so you bring it up later and again they're like, no thanks. You ever had that happen?
I don't think I've had that happen, mostly because I tend to avoid like object MacGuffins in a game.
Sure.
Like I don't know why that's the case with me. I tend to avoid like singular objects being important. I don't know what I do instead, but I know that I don't think I've ever run a campaign where it's like you found this mystical orb and you need to have that with you the whole time.
Right. It's in this briefcase.
Yeah. I haven't aped the Lord of the Rings, I guess,
or Pulp Fiction.
Or Pulp Fiction.
Yeah.
Yes. I missed the briefcase reference there. Now that you say that, I was like, oh, that's what he meant.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I was thinking of, because like, I mean, that's the classic fantasy story of Lord of the Rings is like, here's this object. You need to take X object to Y location and do Z thing with it to stop the bad things from happening.
I like it in a fantasy story where that's been the narrative to the entire thing, and then we get to the end to find out that no, you were creating the problem the entire time.
You were actually the problem.
Yeah.
You were the bad guy.
Yeah. We need to take this book. We don't know about this tome that we found. It's bound in some sort of animal flesh we don't recognize. Man, we better read from it and do what it says.
Oh God. There is the Book of Vile Darkness is an object in Dungeons and Dragons that's supposed to, I think it's like Vecna's personal spell book or something like that. And that thing is annoying because in my Saturday campaign, we have had that in our possession twice. And the thing that it makes it annoying is if you do anything good while holding it, it disappears from your possession. If you cast a healing spell, if you like give someone a hug because they were feeling bad, the book is gone. Our party has a bad track, right? Like earlier, like the first year of the campaign, we had several like evil or like bad items, magic items that we were like, we're gonna hold on to this because we don't trust other people to hold on to it, and that never went well for us. The items always got like stolen, or we lost hold of them. And so now, like since then, there's been several other times it's like, ooh, this evil item is like, we're not gonna take that. We've
learned our lesson.
it has been proven that we cannot be trusted to keep that in our, like the Sword of Kaz got presented to us, which is a very powerful magic sword that was wielded by he was Vecna's second in command that betrayed him, and all that was left after their titanic battle was the sword and Vecna's iron hand.
Really?
So the sword was there, and we're like, no, we're not gonna take that from where it's at and leave with it. We're gonna reseal this dungeon, and we're gonna leave. Because we don't want to hold on to this obviously ludicrously evil object for someone else to just take it from us. It's, I don't know. I just, I don't remember how I got started on that, but I'm going to fix our headphones now.
Yeah. Okay. You're gonna go over here because we got a loose wire going on. That's making everything all screwy. All right. You got it? Oh, you need to replug it in. There you go. It didn't help. I think it's something. There it is.
Got it.
Is it good?
I got it.
All right.
It made it go all screwy Louie.
It made it go all weird and stuff.
But yeah, Baldur's Gate 3. It's good.
Yes.
It's the only problem I've had with it so far, other than not having more hours in the day to play it, is I didn't play very much. I played last night, but it was earlier in the campaign. Like I did like a multiplayer thing where we like restarted the game or whatever with new multiplayer characters. On my single player game, I didn't play much last night, so I don't know if the changes I made helped, but I was having some performance issues.
Happens to us all, man.
Like the frame rate was getting really bad in like areas where there were a lot of NPCs walking around. It was getting really, really bad. So I lowered my settings down to medium. I'm not sure if that really helped all that much. I think it did, but I didn't play that much last night to really notice if it helped out. But I'm really, really happy with the purchase that I made 2 years ago. I can't remember how much it was to get the early access version of the game. I think it was only like $30.
Really?
It was like half price of what the full release would have been.
And you'd have to pay more for the full release, right?
No.
Cool.
It just went straight into my library when it was done downloading.
And did you Irish for a moment there?
Yeah.
Did you? I can't remember what it was. Oh, did you get to put in input? Were you a beta tester at all?
I don't think I ever really submitted. I think I like would do like the automated crash reports and stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't ever really submit any detailed bug reports or anything like that. Mostly I just wanted to try the game early, and also I guess it's kind of a similar thing to like pre-ordering, I suppose, but I'm kind of against pre-ordering most of the time because I feel like there are a lot of companies who they want you to pre-order this game, and they give you a bunch of incentives to pre-order this game. So that way they've already got your money. And then they release a game that's dreadfully, dreadfully broken when it actually comes out, and it's missing features and it needs, a ton of work still, but they just got pushed into putting it out. That's why I'm normally against pre-ordering video games. But this was early access. So it's like, yeah, of course it's broken. That's the point. We're still making it.
Right.
And it's for them because I believe Larian Studios is, I believe, like an independent studio. They self-publish their games, like they're not beholden to like a big publisher. They're not owned by any other big company.
Nice,
as far as I know. So for them, taking part in early access was like I've played. I never played all that much of Divinity Original Sin 2, which was the game before Baldur's Gate 3 that they made. Which
that was a while ago, wasn't it?
Yeah, it came out in like 2015.
Right.
But it was already considered to be like one of the best CRPGs ever made. And so it's like, I know these guys have a good reputation. I'm really excited for them to make a game set in, with the Dungeons and Dragons rule set in a world I'm familiar with. So here's my money. You can have this while you make the game and, pay your employees with it.
So what do they charge for the game now? It's like
probably
$60?
Probably $60, industry standard. And they do have like deluxe editions of the game or whatever, but
sure.
I would imagine it's $60.
Right. The deluxe version comes with sour cream.
Yes, the deluxe version comes with sour cream.
Right.
I think there's like a dice set you can get.
Oh, neat.
And then there's also items that they give you in your camp that are like clothing and a weapon and an instrument from the main characters of Divinity 2. You can get like the cape of the Red Prince, who was the lizard folk. I don't understand super well how like the characters in Divinity 2 works, because the way that game system worked is like none of them had like a default, like they had kind of a default class, but you could like customize them way more, versus in like Baldur's Gate 3, each of the pre-made characters has a class tied to them that at least at the start of the game they have to be. Very early on, you meet a character who can change your class. Right. And you can do that with the origin characters if you're playing as one of them. But Divinity, like I never got super far into Divinity Original Sin 2 because my brain is always in D&D mode, and the way that the armor in that game works is so weird because you have physical armor and magical armor, and then you have health. And in order to do any damage to someone's health, you have to get through either their physical armor or their magical armor first and bring those bars down to 0. And the numbers get really big for no particular reason. Okay. And it's definitely adds a level of strategy to the game, but because I'm so used to like the relative simplicity of 5th edition D&D, I find it to be a little tedious, like having to chew through all the bars before you actually do any meaningful damage. Right. That bugs me a little bit, but I've heard nothing but good things about Divinity 2, but I never got all the furthest I got in that game was like a multiplayer game that we were doing. Yeah, it's good stuff. Baldur's Gate 3. If you've got a chunky PC, I would highly recommend it. If you have a PlayStation 5, I would recommend it when it comes out on PS5 in September.
Which I do.
I don't know. I actually don't know if it's available on like Xbox, because Xboxes are basically PCs. Right. So I don't know if maybe that's why PS5 is coming out later, because it's slightly different than the version we made for Xbox, which could be more, I don't know.
Here's the Windows version for your Xbox.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the way that worked or not. Or if it's like PC and PS5, which I feel like when it comes to, if you're going to choose two, that's not usually the two in the pairing. Right. PC and PlayStation, that's not usually the two in the pairing. Usually it's Xbox and PC, not PC and PlayStation. But that's becoming more popular because now you can play God of War on PC, and is The Last of Us available on PC? I can't remember. That's a PlayStation game I need to play at some point, now that I've got one again.
The show's good, too.
Play The Last of Us, and Last of Us Part 2, and whole bunch. I still haven't finished Bloodborne, so...
I thought you finished Bloodborne last week.
No, remember? I'm pretty sure I told you that I slammed my head against the wall for 4 hours
straight.
The
DLC is what you haven't finished.
Yeah.
You finished the actual game proper.
No, I didn't.
Did
because
you?
I got up to the ending, but when Bloodborne is over with, it's over with. It's not like, at least, okay, I don't know this for sure, but like in Elden Ring, you can beat the final boss and then you just go back to without starting New Game Plus, you go back to like the round table.
Oh, sure.
And you can continue to explore the world, and you can attempt other endings. Like, it just takes you back to before you beat the final boss, basically. In Dark Souls, when you, like in the original Dark Souls, when you beat the final boss, the game is over with and it immediately restarts you in New Game Plus.
Sure.
You don't go back to Firelink Shrine and like, now you can explore the rest of the world and fight bosses that you didn't kill. So Bloodborne is among that cadre of early like games in I was about to say the Blood Souls series. Usually it's the Soulsborne series.
Right.
Is what people say.
I like Blood Souls better.
Blood Souls is cool.
Yeah.
But it's earlier in there. And also, considering one of the endings of Bloodborne is your character turns into a weird little squid, I imagine that you would probably immediately start New Game Plus.
That would be awesome if you went back through...
And you got to play as a baby great one. While you're you're just flopping around on the ground trying to fight the cleric beast.
Go back to Yarnum.
Your eldritch powers have not manifested yet. You have the form of a great one, but none of the abilities yet. So you're just flopping there.
You're just basically a calamari at this point.
You try to leave the hunter's dream, and then the doll walks up and is just like, no, it's okay. You are not ready to leave the dream yet, little one. But yeah, so no, I had not fought Gehrman in the Moon Presence yet.
Gotcha.
When I finally do get back around to playing Bloodborne, I'm sure I will probably demolish those two because I was ready to get to them anyway, and then I will have gone through the entire DLC, which has, as I understand, much harder boss. Like, Gehrman's not an easy boss necessarily, but I think both Gehrman and the Moon Presence are kind of glass cannons. And
they hit hard, but they don't take a lot.
Yeah, they hit hard and they move fast.
Yeah.
I understand the Moon Presence is actually, despite how ridiculously aggressive it is, it's actually easier than Gehrman is.
Yeah, especially considering Gehrman's a dude in a wheelchair for nearly the entire game.
Most of the game. Well, then he stands up.
Right. You're like, what?
But yeah, at some point, I do not know when, but at some point I will get back to Bloodborne. But I have no idea when that is going to be, because Baldur's Gate 3 will probably take a long while to finish, and then I'm sure when I'm done with it, I'll probably want to play it again, but with a different character and make different choices, and because there's a lot of different things you can do.
Speaking of FromSoft games, do you have to download a different version of Elden Ring for the PlayStation 5?
I don't know, but I would assume so. I don't think I don't think the PS4 and PS5 versions are,
because I'm playing the PS4 version on the PS5, and there's a lot of stuff where it's the graphics are kind of wonky.
I would imagine they're two separate versions. Yeah. I don't know, because I played it on PC, so I'm not the person to ask. That would be a question for Google, I think.
Yes. Or just the PlayStation Store. Or
that, yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine they're two different versions of the game, though.
So I'd have to rebuy it?
Probably. I don't know.
I mean, I did that with Skyrim.
Yeah, but that's the thing you do with Skyrim, though. Right. I hate it, but that's the thing you're supposed to do with Skyrim.
Right.
It's like, oh, I got a new game system. Time to buy Skyrim again. I have actually avoided that.
You have?
On the version of Skyrim that I have installed on my PC, I didn't buy because it was through Game Pass. But
just curious.
What? What are you curious about?
I'm looking in the App Store
to see if you can download Skyrim on your
my phone. Yeah.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think the actual game Skyrim by Bethesda Studios will be available to play on your phone.
Skyrim.
I don't think there's even like an Apple OS version of Skyrim.
The Elder Scrolls Blades.
Yeah, that's not Skyrim.
That's not Skyrim.
No.
Nope.
I think the Elder Scrolls Blades, is that their like Hearthstone style card game? There is one of those.
Right.
Or is it like one of the old, like an old ass Elder Scrolls game that they made into a mobile game?
I'm not seeing, but this actual has. I'm not sure what the fuck.
So
I think yeah, the Blades is well, but it'll be really good graphics going on for a phone.
Oh yeah, I don't know what that is. I actually don't know what that is.
I kind of want that.
I think it's it's probably like a hack and slash thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I know that you can play. There's a version of Knights of the Old Republic that's you can play on mobile devices.
Yeah.
I think anyway. I think it's Knights of the Old Republic 1. I don't know. That's a classic game that I've never played. Along with the original Baldur's Gate games is the original era of like BioWare. There's 3 eras of BioWare games. There's the early Baldur's Gate games, and then Knights of the Old Republic, and then comes Mass Effect, which is the second era of BioWare games, and Mass Effect and Dragon Age, sort of the second era, and then the studio committed seppuku, basically.
Really?
Well, because first came Mass Effect Andromeda, which was kind of a flop and had a ton of technical issues and was just really weird character animations that looked super bad, and just like the art style was fucking weird. And then came Anthem, which was hyped up as this big thing, and it was the Fallout 76 of that year.
Oh, really? Oof.
Like it was like Anthem and Fallout 76 are kind of equal in terms of games that way overpromised and way underdelivered. And unlike another game that way overpromised and underdelivered, being No Man's Sky, they didn't fix either of those games.
They fixed No Man's Sky.
They fixed No Man's Sky and have actually made it, at this point, I believe, more than they promised it would be.
Really?
Before it came out. Like as I understand, No Man's Sky at this point is genuinely a great game. But Anthem, I think, was completely and utterly abandoned. Fallout 76 continued to limp along. I don't know how. Technically, I think it's probably got its shit together, but from a like monetization standpoint, it is and always has been a nightmare. That I just have never had any desire to bother with Fallout 76. I'm worried about Starfield. That comes out soon.
Really?
That comes out next month. Starfield does, which that feels weird to me that it's coming out so soon. Because I'm like I don't know, man. I feel like everything Bethesda has put out in the last decade could have had another year of polish.
I just feel like Starfield is going to be about a tabby cat in space.
Aha!
Who hates Mondays.
Yeah. And he's voiced by Lorenzo Music,
who's been dead for quite a while.
But
Bill Murray in the movie.
Yeah, it could be Bill Murray.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried. I don't know. I don't know when I'm going to get to Starfield, because the other game that's coming out in September that I am more excited about by a large margin is Space Marine 2. I'm much more excited about that because I have like avoided anything and everything to do with Starfield, honestly, because I don't want Todd Howard to do what he always does, which is look at this thing. Aren't you so excited about it? And I'm like, yes, Todd, I am. And then I play the thing and I'm like, it's a glitchy mess. It's like, what the fuck did you expect? It's a Bethesda game. They always do this.
When they hit, though. I mean, you have to admit.
I mean, I'm not saying their games are bad, but the release of every single one of their games since Fallout 3 has always been absolutely riddled with bugs. just a bug-infested hellscape, every single one of their games.
Trying to think what the bugs were in Fallout 4.
Fallout 4 was probably the least egregious of them, but it did have a fair amount of them. Most of them were just less fun or funny than the ones in Skyrim. There was one that was particularly horrifying, which is stepping into and out of power armor. You could sometimes step out of power armor and your whole body would still be the same size as it was. Because like the way that game engine like is able to do anything is it's... I can't even describe the eldritch horror that is Bethesda's game engine. But anyway, your entire body would be like horrifying noodle proportions, stepping out of power armor. It was freaky, but Fallout 4 had a fair share of bugs, but it was nowhere near as bad as like Skyrim was. Obviously not nowhere near as bad as Fallout 76 was.
New Vegas had some bugs in it, didn't it?
New Vegas was, but that wasn't Bethesda. That was Obsidian.
Oh, I suppose, yeah.
It was Bethesda's absolute hot dog water engine. So most of the bugs were not necessarily Obsidian's fault that they existed. They were just shit that was inherently wrong with the game engine. But they also gave Obsidian a year to make that game.
Yeah, that's nowhere near enough time.
It's some, to be expected somewhat. But yeah, Fallout New Vegas. I think Fallout, when it comes just to sheer number of bugs, Fallout New Vegas is probably the worst of the bunch, especially at launch. I never played it at launch, so I don't know how bad it was, but there are a lot of bugs that never got fixed to the degree that basically you kind of have to play it on PC and then download. Like the most popular Fallout New Vegas mod is like, here's a mod that was my phone. Oh, here's a mod that just fixes all of the things wrong with the game. But
it's still one of the most beloved in the series.
Yeah, because the writing and the quest structure and the design of the world and everything is really, really great. Because Obsidian knows what the fuck they're doing with that. And Bethesda's been progressively getting dumber and dumber and dumber when it comes to how they like write and structure their games. They've been consistently dumbing things down since Morrowind, trying to appeal to a wider and wider audience. And I think it's killing my enthusiasm for their games.
Is what's his name still involved in it?
Todd Howard?
No, the other guy. He was the guru at Bethesda for a long time.
Pete something?
No, he had a weird first name.
I don't know.
I'll think of it.
I don't know. You want to talk about King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard?
Let's do.
So King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard is an Australian rock band formed in 2010, Melbourne, Victoria. And as I stated at the start of the episode, they've released 24 studio albums. I believe they had 1 year where they released 4 studio albums. That was like a goal of theirs for the year. They are primarily a psychedelic rock band. Their first album blended surf music and garage rock at the time, but they transitioned towards being like a psychedelic rock / progressive rock band as they went along, getting progressively weirder and weirder with more complex writing. And they, before Petrodragonic Apocalypse, had put out an album that was called Infest the Rat's Nest, which was their first foray into metal. A number of the members of the band, had grown up listening to various different metal projects, and they're like, hey, what if we made a thrash metal album? And so that was Infest the Rat's Nest. And then it's been a number of years since then. Oh, sorry, it was 5 albums in 1 year. It wasn't 4.
Holy crap.
That endeavor has its own subheading on Wikipedia. But it's been a few years since Infest the Rat's Nest, and so they were like, hey, let's make another metal album. And then we get Petrodragonic Apocalypse. Which is, I would say the genre here is listed as thrash metal. I would be more inclined to call it just heavy metal / progressive metal. Like it's I think to my ear, the musical sensibilities sound much more identifiably just like general heavy metal. But I think that might have the most to do with the production and the like guitar tones and everything.
Yeah.
Like, because they're a very old school type of band.
Mm-hmm.
They're focus a lot on analog and that sort of thing. Like they are the sort of band that I think would have gone absolutely fucking gangbusters in the 70s.
Sure.
Like, if these guys had gotten started and were making music in the 70s, they would have been fucking massive. They're pretty big for what they are today.
Right.
But like everything I've seen of like their technical setup and the stuff that they prefer to do, how they prefer to make their albums, it's like someone ripped them out of the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that kind of lends itself to the sound of this record and their take on metal, which sounds kind of old school. Mm-hmm. It sounds like a more, I think it's partially with the vocal performance as well, but also with the way that the riffs tend to go. It sounds like a slightly more old school, slightly more lo-fi. Oh God, I lost the name of the band. High on Fire.
Oh, sure. Okay.
I'm here. I keep on, for some reason, High on Fire kept on coming into my head while I was listening to this album. Like something about it just felt a little Matt Pike to me.
Yeah. I can hear that.
Something about the vocals and something about the guitar tone just felt kind of Matt Pike-ish. But this album's wild. This album's pretty wild. So, and the making of this album was also pretty weird. As I understand, they wrote, I don't know if they recorded, but they wrote a song a day.
Really?
Recording. Let's see here.
And some of these actually take a day to listen to.
Yes.
Yeah.
The band wrote a song a day. They apparently started from scratch. They didn't record a song a day, but they each song was written in a day, starting with nothing. Mm-hmm. And I think that does kind of, if you like listen while knowing that, it kind of, I think that kind of comes out. Like there's a lot of stuff that is sort of repeated.
Sure. And
stuff like there's not necessarily the cleanest, most sensical transition between things at times.
But it all just melts together.
It works. It all works. By no means does any of this like sound bad or sound sloppy or messy. But there's a level of thing, a level there where I think if they as a band had more time, they would have made perhaps some different songwriting decisions. Not saying that it would be the right decisions necessarily, but
let's mention the Motor Spirit again.
The motor, there's a lot of lyrics that are just repeated over. Dragon, 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 dragon. But I think honestly, it's one of those things where like I can't begrudge any choice that they made with the production or the songwriting because it's honestly part of the novelty. Like, of course they wrote each one of these songs in a single day. Why wouldn't they? It's right. King Gizzard. That's what they do. Like King Giz is one of those bands that I have always sort of appreciated from afar. Like I've liked everything I've ever heard of theirs, but I've never really gotten into them. Because like we said at the start of the episode, like they're kind of a novelty. Like I'm sure there's plenty of people where King Gizzard is their favorite band, but I feel like it's not. I feel like it's much more common for people to be aware of King Gizzard and go like, yeah, I like King Giz. They're great. They're awesome. They're a lot of fun.
Sure.
But they're not going to be like, they're my favorite band. It's going to be like, no, I like those guys, but man, they're weird. What a weird band. And I remember like around when I started working full time and we were getting to know each other, this was one of the bands that was like, have you heard of this weird fucking band?
And I hadn't.
And we talked about it for a bit. It was on our mind. But yeah, this album, it's weird. It's weird. Petrodragonic Apocalypse, I think, kind of tells you some of the themes. It's sort of like environmental apocalyptic themes, but also dragons.
Right.
And a Gila monster. I don't know exactly how the Gila monster enters into it, but he's the king of something.
Right.
He's not the lizard wizard.
No, he is the king lizard.
The king lizard, but not the king gizzard, because I don't think lizards have a gizzard.
Do they?
I don't think lizards have gizzards. I think that's birds.
Right. Is it just birds?
I think crocodiles might have gizzards.
Let's look that up. Do they have a crop? Birds have a crop.
It's archosaurs primarily that have gizzards, and that's birds and crocodiles.
Right.
And dinosaurs, but they're extinct.
Right. They don't have them anymore.
They don't have gizzards anymore.
Have you ever eaten gizzards?
I've never even eaten gizzards.
I've never eaten a gizzard, but I watched my mom accidentally eat one.
How did she accidentally eat a gizzard?
I was a kid and we were at a Vegas buffet. And my grandpa's sitting there, and my mom is sitting there, and grandma's sitting there, and my mom is eating some. This is really good. Just like, I think this is like chicken. I don't know what this is. It's really good though. It's got a really nice gravy. And she's eating, and she ate like 3 of them. My grandpa just watched. He said, "Those are gizzards." Mom's like,
"Oh, that's
chicken throats."
Oh no! But before she thought they were good.
Yeah.
I don't think I would be bothered by the idea of
I don't think I would either.
Gizzard at all. It's just a different part of the chicken.
Right.
It's still meat or whatever. You know, it's fine.
You're eating its body.
You're not eating any of the fucking stones that are in there.
Right. They clean the gizzards before they fry them.
Clean the grit and everything out. Right. So there's nothing wrong with it. But yeah. Gila monster. There's a Gila monster in there.
So there's a king lizard. Now, my question is there a gizzard wizard?
I don't know.
That sounds like a really very specific kitchen tool.
I don't know. In my head, I think it's primarily because they're Australian, but also because Apocalypse was in the title and Petro was in the title. This whole thing just screamed Mad Max to me. This is Mad Max, but with dragons. Like that's and witches and shit. Like dragons and witches and shit.
Oh my!
That's really what it should be. Stu should have said it's Mad Max, but with dragons and wizards and shit. Something about it. I think it honestly is mostly because I know they're Australian,
right?
And I was just like, what's an Australian thing that has to do with the apocalypse? Obviously, Mad Max.
Right?
But I mean, the first song is called Motor Spirit.
Right.
Like that sounds like something straight out of the Cult of Immortan Joe. like
we pray to the motor spirit.
Yes. like that absolutely sounds like it would be something in Mad Max.
Right.
Is that fucking Furiosa movie with Anya Taylor-Joy still happening?
Oh, I don't know.
I
would watch it.
Yeah, so would I. I'd look, I'll watch anything in that universe.
Right.
Like Fury Road was so fucking good. Mm-hmm. It was so good. You know, it's been too long since I've watched that movie.
I'd like to go back and watch Thunderdome. I mean, because
especially
since Tina Turner
just
died.
To honor Tina Turner.
Right.
I've got the whole series on Blu-ray. I need to just
Do you?
Yeah, I need to rewatch.
Because the truth is, we don't need another hero. We don't need another way home.
Yes. You got any more?
I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah. Does this album slap?
Yeah, it does.
Yes, absolutely. I think it slaps. There are some really genuinely awesome riffs in here. There's like I would say the energy is pretty electric and absolutely nonstop in every single song. Like they hardly take their foot off the gas pedal for even a moment. And
then when they do, like in the final track, I mean,
yes,
yeah.
But so score, this came out to about a 76%. I think King Gizzard is one of those bands where like they're not necessarily looking to make the best album they can possibly make. They're just like, what's an idea we have? All right, let's put it together. Like, I think one of the things that seems to come through with them and everything I've ever seen and heard from them is that they're just a bunch of guys who seem to really, really love making music together. And that's seems to just kind of be the goal of just like, hey, let's just make some wild shit and not really care. Like when you're putting out on average 2 albums a year, you can afford to be like, yeah, okay, they didn't like that one that much, but there'll be a new one in 6 months.
Yeah,
so
you just wait.
Maybe that one will be better. Like, so yeah, like 76 is, I think, compared to a lot of albums that we listen to, which usually hover above 80.
Yeah,
it's a little bit lower than is normal. I don't think it deserves that. I think it's mostly brought down. Pitchfork gave it a 5.4 out of 10.
Really?
I think they were the low outlier from the major publications that reviewed this album. Everyone else was at least 3.5 stars. That's the next lowest one is 3.5. But most of them are 8 out of 8 or 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
I don't know why that was so hard for me to say.
You can't say, I can't write 8s. Did you know that I have a hard time writing?
You have a hard time writing the number 8?
Yeah, I don't know why.
I think I do too sometimes. The top circle, I suppose, always ends up, not always, but sometimes ends up like getting lopsided, it's lopsided. It leans to one side.
Yeah, same here.
And it looks like deflated. I have that exact same problem. I think it's because like I'm trying to write too fast.
Yeah.
And my hand is already like moving a little bit to the right as I'm like, I feel like I should be done drawing the 8 already. My brain wants me to move on to the next character.
Right.
What's your favorite song on this album?
I listened to this 3 times.
Okay, so did I.
I think it might be the aforementioned Gila Monster.
Gila Monster, okay. Yeah, Gila Monster is a very fun track. Very good. The opening riff is heavy as fuck.
Yes.
So heavy is that opening riff.
Yes, it is.
I would say my favorite song is Dragon.
Sure, Dragon.
The dragon. I think for me, the opening and ending riffs, while not as heavy as Gila Monster, are probably the like the proggiest things on the album.
Sure.
They just sound really, really technical. At a very high pace as well. And like the entire middle portion of the song is great as well. But like the beginning and ending just kind of is like, oh yeah, this is the highest level of musicianship that these guys can show off.
Right.
And it was really cool.
And then they ended with what's largely instrumental. I mean, with Flamethrower, it's called
Flamethrower. Yeah. Stu Mackenzie's vocals are pretty ever present throughout most of the album. His vocal style is interesting, at least on this album.
Throat singing in here.
At least I think that's him. Maybe it's a different member of the band, but maybe. Like his regular singing style on this album sounds. I don't know enough about singing to say whether or not it is, but it has that sort of overtone-esque quality to it. His singing does. I don't think it is, but it's like he has that sort of the timbre of it. It almost sounds kind of throat singy-ish, but it isn't. But do you understand what I'm trying to get at here? I get
what you're saying, yeah.
Like it's a way that you wouldn't think to sing those words, I think. So your favorite again was Gila Monster, with Dragon. So what medal are you bestowing upon Petrodragonic Apocalypse or Dawn of Eternal Night and Annihilation of Planet Earth at the beginning of Merciless Damnation? Like Maz Kanata to Chewbacca at the end of the 2019 film Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. I got it all out.
I don't remember what the question was.
What medal are you bestowing upon it?
It's just right there on the cusp. It's either a really high silver or it's a gold.
I'm giving it a silver.
Yeah.
it's what I had. I mean, this is it's the same experience I've always had with King Gizzard, which is like,
this
is really good.
Yeah,
this is cool. Right. I like this, but I'm not going to sit down and listen to all fucking 24 of their albums. Like I had a positive experience with this. I like it. I'm glad I've listened to it, and I'll get around to listening to some more King Gizzards at some time in the future, but I'm not going to make it my mission in the next couple weeks.
Somebody needs to get a note to the worst idea in the world.
You mean the worst idea of all time?
Yeah, worst ideas of all time. Tell them, hey, guys.
You should listen to
all 24 King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard albums.
Have it be a one-off series for them where they listen to all 24 of them in a row. Mm-hmm. I could probably just do that. Take a couple of days off. Just like make a podcast out of that.
In real time.
Yeah, in real time.
Make it a real time podcast.
20. I don't know how long each album is, so it could be like, I don't know if you can fit all that in 24 hours or not, because this one was 48 minutes.
Right.
I imagine some of them might be shorter or longer. Mm-hmm. I don't know. But have a 24-hour podcast that's just always underscored by some music in the background. That wouldn't get copyright struck.
Well, maybe if you called their record company,
be like, hey. Whenever their next album is coming out, be like, hey, as a promotional idea, here's a thing. I don't know if they have a record company.
Put it on Twitch.
I think most of their stuff. Okay, label is KGLW. I have no idea.
KGLW, King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard.
Okay, yeah. I was gonna say. Yeah. I feel like almost all their stuff is self-released, right. And I'm pretty sure that all their stuff is self-produced as well. Mm-hmm. But next week, what do you want to talk about?
Next week, I thought I'd volley it back into the early 90s, and we'll listen to some Sacred Reich.
Sacred Reich.
It's a somewhat political thrash band, and the album is The American Way.
The American Way, okay.
Yeah.
I do know, by the way, my next episode, I already know
Sweet.
What I want to talk about. For once, I know several weeks in advance.
Nice.
And it's going to be Ontological Mysterium by Horrendous.
Oh. I like me some Horrendous.
That'll be in a couple weeks.
Okay.
But
Next week,
Sacred Reich
yes.
on the Bronze Metalist podcast. Why don't you go ahead and subscribe to our feed on that thing that Musk owns, whatever it's called these days.
X.
No, I don't want to say it.
Bacon and X.
Bacon and X.
Yeah.
Go follow us there or on Facebook. Or just, better yet, avoid social media altogether and subscribe to our feed on whatever you're using to listen to us right now.
Right. So, which it just seems like an effort and futility, sort of telling people, here's how you listen to the podcast. Well, you're listening to the podcast right now. Clearly, you already know how to listen to the podcast.
It's how to get notified when future episodes of the podcast come out so they don't miss an episode. Because how dare someone not immediately consume every piece of media as it comes out.
Right.
That's not allowed in this day and age. Mm-hmm. You can't wait. You have to watch or listen or play the thing as soon as it's available.
Right now.
Right now, or else you're going to miss out.
Yeah.
You're going to get the FOMO.
Quell your FOMO.
So, that's the podcast. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of the Bronze Metalist Podcast. I'm Kale.
I'm OJ. Congratulations.